offered a seat at multiple schools. And so some of the data that we're looking at, I mean, some principals know, I know these kids are coming back because they're my students and I know their families and I just know they're part of my community. When it comes to families that might be choicing in, they may have choiced to 4 different schools. And so we won't know till the end of this month where some of that choice data settles in terms of their final choices. Because families then, once they get the offers, have the opportunity to make a final choice. So the schools are, at this point, we're utilizing the great knowledge that our principals and school leaders have of their communities, the data that is existing in Enrolled Jeffco, which we're still processing and analyzing because it just closed. Was it last Friday? Yeah. And then, of course, we have to have this period of time where offers are sent out, lotteries are run, offers are sent out, families indicate acceptance, and then we know a little bit more, right? But enrollments tend to shift and ebb and flow all through the spring. So we're making the best decisions we can to support schools with what information we have at this time, and we'll continue to be flexible as it moves forward.
Can you all remind me, this building on Director Reed's question, what is the date by which families need to indicate their acceptance of whatever they're going? So they wouldn't be on 4 or 6 different lists, but we narrow it.
Let's have it. Looks like Ms. Relu is going to jump in on that, and Mr. Weiss might want to add. So we'll let the two of them jump in as they see fit.
Yeah, we have. So right now we're in the data cleanup part of the process around Enrolled Jeffco. As Superintendent Dorland said, there are some families that choose multiple schools, so the numbers aren't perfectly clean. But offers will go out on January 25th. Families have 3 days to respond to the offer, so by January 28th, we should know a little more clearly the numbers. I mean, probably not on the 28th, but the 29th, we'll have a clearer picture of exactly where students will be. Okay, 24th and 27th. That's an update. There you go.
Thanks. And I know some of the school visits that I've been going to in the last week or so, this is a challenge. It's sort of a tension with the unknown of having a family that the principal may not know that the child is on 6 different lists, right? So this is my shout out to encourage parents to decide, because it is difficult. It makes planning challenging for some schools. Right. Did you have other questions, Director Reed? Any other questions? Director Varda.
On the SBB redesign, so are the forecasts that the schools got, I think on August or January 5th, included the SBB redesign model in them? So is the forecasting of enrollment part of the SBB redesign model? Is that like a variable in it?
I guess I would say yes and no. When we did our first phase of kind of surfacing concerns and questions in the system, one of the criteria that we used to evaluate whether our school resourcing system was working was it adequate, and was it predictable? Actually, that was 2. They were 2 separate ones. And one of the things our principals pointed out is sometimes they know that their enrollment is going down or going up, and this was well before anything around consolidations had to happen. And so that actually became the impetus for a discussion around forecasting enrollment district-wide as part of the budgeting process, because it is other districts who use a student-based budgeting model. Many of the ones I'm aware of, and examples they shared with us, do forecast enrollment, and because that can create actually more predictable and more sufficient. So, for example, if you're increasing in enrollment and you just carried this year, you actually don't have sufficient resources to staff your building. If you know you're not going to have the kids, it's actually better to just know what number you're going to have and not be thinking that you're going to have more, because that messes up predictability. So we had contemplated this as a design change prior to consolidation, And then consolidation necessitated and aligned to this potential design change. It basically accelerated the pace, which is to say we decided, okay, we're going to go ahead and pull the trigger on forecasting enrollment for all of our elementary because it was necessary. Does that make sense? It was both.
And we did it for elementary because we needed to, given projecting where kids were going to go so that they could build budgets in receiving schools and nearby schools. We are not doing it this year for middle and high. Is that accurate?
Yes, although we do hope, depending on what we learn from this cycle, to expand the projection process to all schools, all grade levels.
So is forecasting part of SPB redesign?
Sorry.
So the SPB redesign is the budgets that principals got.
Mhm.
I understand the forecasting part.
Oh, okay.
So I'm wondering the SPB redesign. Maybe I just still don't understand what all went into that.
Sure.
And because one reason I'm asking is I think, like for example, this confuses me because at my kid's middle school, like so our principal always sends out a survey that asks parents for input on putting the budget together. It's very participatory, and she mentioned in the email an anticipated reduction in the budget. Mm-hmm. And she did mention an expected decline in enrollment, but I'm wondering, is that decline in her budget also because of this SPB redesign? And how many schools, because she's at a middle school, so how is she projecting that budget or other middle school and high school and elementary schools? And did the SPB redesign actually increase the amount of money that will go to some schools? Because I've heard of only reductions in the budget. So I'm wondering, how does our revenue go up if we're reducing the budget because of SPB redesign in so many schools? Then, why aren't we saving money in the revenue? Are some schools getting more because of that redesign?
Yeah, great questions. So we will, when we come back in February, we'll have a little bit more information about the total pool of funds we've put out to schools. Because of school consolidation and because of enrollment declines overall, the total amount of money we're putting out to schools next year in today's dollars is lower. So we've talked with the board and we've talked with members of FOC and DAC about strategies to reduce approximately $30 million in spending next year, including $10 million out of our school budgets. And what we put out January 5th reflected that $10 million in anticipated and now actual savings, but that's in today's dollars. So we do actually, of course, increase the dollar amount to afford salaries in tomorrow's dollars, if you will. So when you see the actual, unadjusted comparison, it won't look like it went down, but it does. It would have been $10 million higher without school consolidation savings and enrollment declines. Now, to address another component part of your question, in general, the component parts of the model we shifted on a dollar basis were to do two things. We did move money out of kind of general student funding into the at-risk pupil funding, right? So we increased the overall pool of funds that are supporting our at-risk kiddos as a designated support. We did that by pulling those funds out of the kind of pool of funds for all kids because we didn't have new funds to introduce. So our pool of funds to support on a specific basis our at-risk kids increased on a per student basis from about $800 to $1,072. And that's in tomorrow's dollars. And to do that, we did overall decrease funding. There were also some other adjustments to create purchasing power equity, is what we've been calling it. And that was designed to rebalance the small school subsidies that we have had for a long time that we've kind of kept and that hadn't been examined, as well as some of the base funding amounts. And so that produced some changes. But we did not, the SBB redesign did not in and of itself take any money off the table. Everything in the SBB redesign was money neutral, which is to say, we did not attempt to remove any funding from schools through that project. That was not what was happening. We were taking the same pot of funds and distributing it differently, providing more funds to support at-risk kids and creating purchasing power equity, which in certain cases means a little bit less for some and a little bit more for some. It's the other changes that have nothing to do with SBB redesign that are producing cost savings for the district. And that would happen anyway. So the last part of your question was, when a middle school principal says their enrollment is declining and therefore their budget is declining, that can be true even without forecasted enrollment for a couple of reasons. So for example, that principal who is doing an excellent job of engaging parents, so shout out, could be stating that to parents on the basis of, when we entered this year, our school was budgeted for 400 kids. When we got our October count, it was lower, but I, as a principal, used carry forward funds. I used additional things to kind of keep all my staff in the building. But as I go into next year, I really do have to true up to that October actual. And imagine that the October actual was 350 kids instead of 400. So that, on a year-over-year basis, if you use the one-time funds to kind of keep things going during the current year and minimize disruption to students, that year-over-year true-up does represent a decline, even though she's or he is still budgeted on this year's actual. It does not represent a decline based on a forecast. Now, she could, or he could also be thinking about it in a second way, which is sometimes the principal really is confident, a middle or high school principal, that their enrollment is going to go down. And so they may be communicating to their parents in such a way, hey, I, as the principal, believe and know that I think it will go down by at least this amount. And so I'm going to take funding for that number of kids and put it into a contingency account. And it won't be available to support, the rest of the school needs. So that is a second interpretation of what the principal might have been saying. Does that make sense? Okay.
So that's a lot. But I think at some point, could we, and maybe, I don't think we've had it, get a presentation on the SBB redesign and kind of how that is playing out. I mean, I think I've learned more about the at-risk funding, and I'm still a little, when we say SBB redesign, I think I'm unclear what exactly that is, and I don't know if that is more of a philosophy of how we're looking at money, or if it's a formula that we're applying. You know what I mean? I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I can tell there's lots of different components, and some may be part of the SBB redesign and some may not be, but so it's just a little bit still vague, I think. And so I'm really just curious, how is it impacting our schools in real time? It seems like it is. So anyways, I think that's kind of my question. I'm not sure if this is a formula or a philosophy. Still. And then if it's a formula, what exactly is going into it? Or is there?
Sure.
Is there? Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was going to ask, because I think that would be helpful as well, especially understanding if was that like a one-time change? Is it part of a ongoing change that may, kind of come, how is it iterative, and at what points do we know if it's working or not? Is there a point at which something is already kind of calendared out where that would fit? Or is that something that, there are parts of it where we can receive information as board members in a Friday update or whatnot, and that's helpful. But I also think it's helpful to make sure that community members understand how some of these changes are flowing into our schools. And so trying to figure out if there is a sort of natural place at which we could incorporate that into a presentation that may be on the way or happening soon.
Yeah, we're happy to do that work. I believe that we have talked about it in the past. Brenna, do you remember, was this in a key initiative
Yeah, I think the last time we spoke in a study session was probably October or November about the SBB, and then we did a November or December key initiative meeting, and then I've done probably 6 or 7 presentations to mixed audiences of
Yeah.
staff, DAC,
Principals.
sometimes board, other folks. So obviously we have plenty of materials that we're more than happy to share. It's also all on our website. So everything about how our student-based budgeting formula and process and philosophy, it's all 3, works is in a revised school resource guide. One of the things that's important in any philosophy around resourcing schools is transparency. And so we've overhauled our school resource guide. It now includes resources beyond just the SBB dollars. So we actually operate in a hybrid system. Our schools are resourced both by staff allocations and dollar allocations. And the guide really speaks to both component parts so that the public and everyone can see the ways in which our departments are contributing resources to our schools, and the schools themselves receive monetary resources. So there are a lot of different information sources, and we're happy to come back and do more with you all. I don't know that we'll have that piece ready for February 1st. We've already had to draft that presentation.
Yeah, I have a suggestion. I think we can send some of the website information and the resource guide to you in a weekly update, just so you can check it out on your own timeline, and be prepared then when we do come back, if you have specific questions, to be able to ask us. And I would recommend maybe March for the board's consideration as a good timing for that, given that that's close to when school budgets are due. We'll know a lot more about enrollment. We'll also know a lot more, I think, about department budgets, which is a whole other conversation. And then the other thing I want to acknowledge is, and just let you know, is that we realized that school budgets were going to be impacted somewhat by this redesign of how we allocate through SBB. And some schools would be giving, and some schools would be receiving based on this equity piece and sort of the number of at-risk students that they have in their schools. We've also made revisions to the title allocations, which I know the board has expressed interest in, so we can include that information as well. But we also knew that schools were going to be needing to adjust budgets given declines in enrollment, right? And so we have a centralized contingency that's managed by Mr. Weiss, and our community superintendents are collecting lots of information and data from schools about the impact of these things on a school-by-school basis. And Mr. Weiss will be working with Ms. Copeland and the community superintendents to support schools that might be having a more difficult time with some of these adjustments in this transition year. We don't ever want to just make a vast change and then leave schools in a place where we're asking them to change too much too quickly with that much of an impact on students and families and staff. So we're going to pay attention to that over the next 6 weeks, and we'd be happy to come back and talk more about this. My suggestion on timing would be March. And we'll send you some information in your weekly updates in the meantime.
Okay, my suggestion, unless there are any burning questions, I have a couple, but I can email them. They're not anything that is in the name of transparency or anything else. Is to go ahead and take a break right now. We're going to be coming back into this room by 5 o'clock to begin our regular meeting. So we will adjourn, if that is okay. And like some middle school students, go and have a quick break and bite to eat in 17 minutes. So we will see you all back here at 5 p.m. All right, welcome back for those of you who were here earlier or watching online, and good evening to new folks. We're going to begin this evening by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise and join me. All right. Prior to continuing with our regularly scheduled agenda, I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent, Ms. Dorland.
Great, thank you, President Schooley. The month of January, as you may or may not know, is National School Board Recognition Month, or School Board Recognition Month for the state of Colorado. And I have a proclamation that I would like to read, but before I do that, I would just like to thank all of you for the service that you provide to our community and our school district as you serve on our board. Whereas the education of our children is vital to the future of Colorado, and whereas a solid education establishes the foundation upon which society builds achievement and advancement, and which also gives fulfillment to students' dreams and expectations, and whereas local school board members are committed to children and the belief that all children can be successful learners, and whereas local school board members work closely with parents, educational professionals, and other community members to create educational opportunity for our students, and whereas local school board members are responsible for ensuring the structure that provides a solid foundation for our school system, and whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district, and whereas school board members are extraordinary people who invest many hours of volunteer work to tackle the enormous job of governing our school districts, and whose actions and decisions helped impact the present and future lives of young Coloradans. And whereas the dedication of school board members across our state should be recognized and commended. Therefore, I, Jared Polis, not me, our governor, of the state of Colorado, do hereby proclaim the month of January 2023 as School Board Recognition Month. So congratulations to you all for the important work that you do, and thank you very much for your service.
All right, to keep the joy and love rolling along, we're going to move along into our honors, recognitions, and proclamations, which is a real treat for all of us to be able to honor and recognize all the wonderful stuff, or at least some of the wonderful stuff that's happening across the district. And I get to start us off. So for this first celebration of the evening, the Board of Education is pleased to acknowledge the work accomplished by Welchester Elementary School and Brady Exploration School for being awarded Colorado Governor Jared Polis's Bright Spot Award for our Jeffco Thrives recognition. Could Principal Robinson please make her way to the front of the room to receive the award? And Troy Braley, Principal of Brady Exploration, is not able to be here tonight as he is with family. Anita Madden and Angie Reinke, and if I said that wrong, I really apologize, math teachers at Brady are here to accept this award, hopefully, for him and his school for this evening. Welcome to both of you. And now you get to stand here and listen to all the wonderful things you've done. So get ready, buckle up. Governor Jared Polis created the Bright Spot Award to honor schools that have excelled academically despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition to being recognized, the selected schools will receive $50,000 of the governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund to go toward investments such as expanding student resources, faculty development, and other opportunities that will benefit students' learning experiences. Welchester Elementary School is a high-achieving neighborhood PK-5 school. Authentic collaboration and caring relationships create the conditions for all students to achieve. There's a strong commitment to students, staff development, collaboration, and learning. School-wide literacy, mathematics, and social emotional programs are designed to meet the needs of all students, whether advanced or those who require additional scaffolds to access the curriculum. Students are recognized for their positive contributions to the school community through leadership, positive behavior supports, and social emotional learning. Brady Exploration School serves students who are exploring options outside the traditional educational environment. Its goal is to prepare students to embrace their potential, define and pursue their life goals, and overcome adversity. Brady strives to prepare its students for life beyond high school so that they can begin the next phase of their professional lives before they graduate. Please join us in celebrating Welchester Elementary School and Brady Exploration School and their incredibly hardworking staff and leaders who are committed to delivering instructional excellence and providing extraordinary student experiences. All right, moving along with our presentations, I'm going to turn it over to Director Reed.
All right, our next celebration of the evening, the Board of Education is pleased to recognize a group of talented students for their accomplishments at the National Journalism Education Conference as a part of Our Learners, Our Future recognition. Could the following students from Conifer High School please come to the front of the boardroom? Blake Wickham, Amelia Hobgood, Nicholas Marson, Corey Newmeyer, Maya Dawson, and Allison Myers. The National Student Media Contests were part of the 2022 Fall JEA NSPA National High School Journalism Convention in St. Louis. The convention is a resource for high school journalism programs across the country. It offers instructional sessions led by professional journalists and experienced advisors. In all, 1,119 students competed in photo, broadcast, graphic design, literary magazine, design, and writing contests. There were 510 students recognized with awards. All of the competitors submitted works that were assessed by teams of judges, and awards were presented to contestants on the last day of the competition. Conifer High School had 3 students earn honorable mention awards and 1 student who was selected as a national winner. Amelia Hobgood was an honorable mention in sports writing. Nicholas Marson had an honorable mention in commentary writing. Corey Newmeyer, honorable mention, photography portfolio. Blake Wickham, national winner, literary magazine, photography superior. A group competition, Best of Show, was also entered by teams led by Maya Dawson and Allison Myers. Their team received 6th place for their work on the news magazine, CHS Today, and 8th place for their work on the 2022 yearbook. Let's give a round of applause to all of these students for their extraordinary talent and creativity. We are proud of their accomplishments and wish them well in their future endeavors.
Picture from behind. Picture taking pictures. All right, congratulations once again to all of you. Well done. And now I will turn it over to Director Parker.
For the next celebration of the evening, the Board of Education is pleased to acknowledge the work accomplished by the Automotive Custom and Collision Program at Warren Tech and their instructors, Jim Porter and Chris Small. Could Jim and Chris please make your way to the front of the room to receive our People, Our Strength Award? Come on down. Ooh, look at that. Huh. The Automotive Custom and Collision Program at Warren Tech received a $25,000 benchmark grant to fund innovative projects from the Collision Repair Education Foundation, CREF. The mission of CREF is to support collision repair educational programs, schools, and students to create qualified entry-level employees and connect them with an array of career opportunities. And I just might say something about having had 4 teenagers who had accidents when they were first learning to drive. This would have been a great thing for them to have had in conjunction with their driving privileges. CREF awarded over $400,000 to schools with the goal of helping programs remain at the cutting edge of the collision industry by providing both cash grants and in-kind product donations of state-of-the-art tools, equipment, and materials. Warren Tech received the top prize for the 2022-2023 school year based on an extensive application process. Instructors Jim Porter and Chris Small accepted the award in November at the Specialty Equipment Market Association show in Las Vegas. This grant means so much for the program. It will help with a mobile prep and spray station, providing students with a safe area to do paint repairs. It also it allows instructors like Jim and Chris to continue teaching Jeffco students at the pace of industry and get them excited not only for a job, but a rewarding career. Please join us in congratulating the entire Warren Tech Automotive Custom and Collision team who make this program an incredible success. We are so proud of their commitment to our students and creating pathways and opportunities in preparing students for successful careers.
Mary's behind the check. All right, now we'll turn it over to Director Barta.
Okay, for our next celebration, we're pleased to acknowledge the work accomplished by Lakewood Police Officer Kennedy Bleak. Could Officer Bleak please make her way to the front of the room to receive the Our People, Our Strengths Award? There's more. In 2022, the Department of School Safety changed the name of its annual SRO of the Year award to honor the late Gordon Beasley, who served as a model SRO in Jeffco for many years. Tonight, we honor the 21-22 SRO of the Year, Officer Kennedy Bleak. Officer Bleak served the McLean, Warren Tech, Creighton, Dunston, and Longview campus with outstanding integrity, poise, professionalism, and respect. She's known for her amazing smile and engaging personality, but more so for her ability to connect with kids and serve not only in the SRO role, but as a true mentor to Jeffco students. Officer Bleak personifies this award with her unwavering dedication and true commitment to serving as an SRO while supporting, mentoring, and providing a safe environment for students to thrive and learn. Please join us in congratulating Officer Bleak. We thank you for your commitment to our students, their safety, and their success.
And for our final recognition and award, we're going to turn it over to Director Miller.
This is very poignant and heartwarming award for the first or the final celebration of the evening. The Board of Education is pleased to acknowledge the work accomplished by the Zara Project of Our Communities, Our Legacy Recognition. Could the Executive Director of the Zara Project and 5th grade teacher of Emory Elementary School, Kendra Smith, please make your way, thank you, to the front of the room and receive the Zara Project, named after the Inca goddess of harvest and maize, began 14 years ago by Kendra Smith and her mom. Kendra was troubled by how hungry her students were during the school day and how that interfered with their learning. She also observed that students did not have access to a variety of food during winter break like they did while school was in session. This led Kendra and her mom to reach out to family and to friends. The first year, they fed about 40 families. And the next year, they fed 75 families and turned their project into a nonprofit. This year, approximately 300 families from 6 different Title I schools in Jeffco and 2 in DPS benefit from the Zara Project. Each food package includes a substantial amount to help families get through the 2-week winter break, including 25 pounds of rice, 25 pounds of dried beans, spaghetti sauce, peanut butter, 10 pounds of pancake mix, and a $50 gift card for King Soopers. And I can tell you from experience, it is a magnificent event that takes place while the community reaches out to those families. Although Emory Elementary will be closing this next year's school year, Kendra and her team will continue to feed families as they join the Lasley community and other schools. Please join us in recognizing Kendra Smith, her team, the donors, and the volunteers that help make the Zara Project a growing success each year, all while positively impacting our Jeffco community. We are grateful for your passion and commitment to those in need. We truly thank you for all that you do for our families.
Congratulations, Mom!
Oh.
It is phenomenal and heartwarming to know that there is just an amazing amount of good out there in our community. So thanks to you all. Congratulations to you all, students. And thanks for being here to help celebrate with us. Yeah, nobody wants to stay for public comment? What? Okay. Okay.
Why are they all leaving?
All right, well then, you're going to be missing out. All right, we're going to move on to public comments. Oh, well, I am.
It's just moving.
You're all fine. Susan, you're all fine.
We're just going to wait a couple minutes so that everyone can hear my witty repartee. Okay, so we'll move on now to public comment. This is an opportunity for the community to share their thoughts with the board. The board will listen to any concern on any of the topics for up to 1 hour. If more time is required, then we have a second public comment section at the end of the agenda. We have a 3-minute time limit per individual speaker. If there are 4 or more people who signed up to address the board, they will have 10 minutes as a group to present. So we are going to first start with our online participants. So if you all can unmute so we can make sure we can hear you. Or make sure you can hear me, I guess. Kyle? I don't know anybody's last name. I feel weird calling. Hi, Kyle. Oh, hello there. Can you hear us okay? While we're waiting, we started Red Rocks on Zoom because of the snow day. So we're all on Zoom together, and it's like a not necessarily positive sort of return to the beginning of class. And I found myself being like, "You're muted. You're muted. You're muted." I'm like, "How are we here?" Okie dokie. I know, it was deja vu all over again. All right, is there someone from the group that's presenting or for public comment online who wants to be the spokesperson or begin?
I believe we're still waiting for our spokesperson.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. So we will go ahead with our in-person folks, and then we will come back to you all if that works for you. All right, so whoever is signed up first, welcome, and you'll have 3 minutes somehow that will be up there on the screen. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Ellen Kautz. I live in Lakewood, and I am here on behalf of the teachers of 10 Carroll Middle School in South Jeffco. I'm here to bring forward a time inequity for next year. We are asking that the district work with us in adopting a solution so we may continue to thrive within new start and end times we were allotted. These new times have students at our school for a longer time frame per day than most other middle schools in our district. We work hard to individualize students' needs because we have an SSN program, a GT center, and a wide variety of students with typical needs, mild to moderate learning considerations, and different socioeconomic backgrounds. We are also a school of collaboration. We work together to align our programs vertically and horizontally so that no matter which teacher a student is assigned, they receive a fair and equitable experience and are prepared for the next level of learning. We also offer a large number of opportunities for students to receive academic support, enrichment, and other engagement activities beyond the school day. Our current student contact day is only 5 minutes shorter than the standard day that the district chose for the fair and equitable schedule. However, we are one of a handful of schools that was allotted a 15-minute longer student day to accommodate the needs of Jeffco's transportation department. 15 minutes per day does not sound like a lot, but over the course of the school year, it adds up to 6 more days of contact time for our students compared to the majority of other middle school students in our district. This extra contact time will be coming at the cost of the services we can provide. We will no longer have time to complete many best practice cycles except on the lowest levels. It means that next year, we will be unable to continue our in-depth professional development program that was meant to help us grow as teachers and service our students to a higher level. Next year, we will not be able to provide extracurricular academic support or clubs. We will be unable to have a comfortable buffer of adult supervision during the periods before and after school when students are typically gathered outside. We will be unable to meet as departments to collaborate. That means that we can no longer have time with our department to analyze data on learning gaps and adjust our scopes. It will mean no collaboration or opportunities for program training in a year when our science department is still adjusting to new standards and a recently adopted curriculum, when our CTE programs will be adjusting to new standards, when our math department will also be starting a brand new curriculum. We will not have time to collaborate with our co-teachers and learning specialists without stealing that time from elsewhere to support students on IEPs and 504s. We feel the compromises we will have to make to our school's academic culture will be detrimental to the quality of education we provide to our students. However, we also feel that this is a situation that we can mitigate with help. We have come up with several possible solutions to bring our needed behind-the-scenes time into alignment with the rest of the district, and we are asking the district to please work with us on finding and adopting the best solution for our students' fair and equitable education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we are ready for whoever is signed up next for public comment.
Hi, this is Julie Hornberger. Are you guys ready for me?
In one moment, I think we've got one or two more people, and then we'll move over to you all. If you don't mind waiting for just about, well, I'll say a couple minutes, 3 minutes.
No problem.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello. My name is Kaylee Thomas, and I am a parent of a student at Parr Elementary School here in Jeffco Public Schools. I was a math teacher in Denver Public Schools and then Altus Public Schools in Oklahoma. I've taught at various community colleges and trade schools. I was a military spouse, so we moved a lot. Right now, I'm a digital instructional coach. I care deeply about public education system, which is why I'm here today. However, I am not naive to the fact that our system is riddled with many challenges. One of them right now is teacher retention. A recent NEA survey showed that 55% of our teachers plan on leaving the profession sooner than they had previously planned. We need our teachers, and our kids need our teachers. High quality, experienced teachers are also a matter of equity. The Learning Policy Institute has said that turnover is higher at Title I schools. Center for American Progress points out that Black, Indigenous, and people of color are more likely to be taught by less experienced or not fully certified teachers. I can email a copy with sources if you'd like. While I'd like to be able to pay our teachers more competitively, I realize that this is not likely in the near future. Thus, my proposed solution is to instead provide them with childcare. This solution is multifaceted, and if we can work across our systems within our bureaucracy, it could solve multiple problems. For one, this benefit could be worth over $10,000 a year per young child per teacher. This could keep teachers in the classroom at a time when many leave because it's fiscally challenging to stay. I cannot find numbers about how many teachers leave the classroom when they have their own children, but I'd love to study it. Anecdotally, I notice that this happens all the time. Further, we could have high schoolers help staff these centers, earning credits and stipends. Students could earn career and CTE credits and be immediately employable. There is a shortage of early childhood educators. I've experienced this firsthand as my daughter was in a classroom that could not be staffed and had to be dispersed across the district. Right now, I think that we currently have a huge opportunity. First, Jeffco is closing 16 elementary schools, so we have infrastructure available. Secondly, Colorado is currently offering $85 million through the Opportunity Now grants. According to their letter of intent materials, successful applicants will demonstrate a focus on building pathways between education, training, and high-skill, high-growth jobs for Coloradans. They will prioritize applicants that propose projects intended to meet urgent state needs in critical workforce shortage areas such as healthcare, early childhood education, primary and secondary education. While this particular grant requires a letter of intent by January 23rd, there are grants that could help with infrastructure, remodeling, and hiring staff to oversee these programs. I'd love to speak with anyone further about this idea and happy to provide my email for contact.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in person that has signed up for public comment? Okay, great. Then we will turn to our friends joining us virtually. And if you wouldn't mind just introducing the members of your group, and hopefully you'll be able to see the clock, and you'll have 10 minutes as a group. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Julie Hornberger. Thank you guys for letting us join virtually, which is always convenient for families. I have on the call with me Erin, Amber, Isabel, Meg, and Kristen, who are all sharing the same voice right now. We also have other parents from the class who are by our side. Would be happy to sign. They're not in the same situation as the choice in that we are. So what we would like to bring up is just, do you want to start the timer? I won't need 10 minutes anyway. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate, so Erin and I and the rest of the moms go to Warder with our students at preschool. And we have been choiced into the preschool outside of the actual neighborhood within the Jeffco district. And so we met with Matt, the principal, the other day, and he advised us to connect with Danielle. So Danielle, I really appreciate you helping us to figure out next steps as to how to make some kind of voice heard. I guess since I have so much time, I'll just give you the story. All of these families have researched schools, found what worked for them, and got their kids into the preschool. And during that process, some of us knew, I did not, that when you choose a preschool, you're not just automatically into the school, right? You have to restart that process for kindergarten. Some of us had comments with Matt where it was like, okay, so we're not guaranteed in. However, the assurance at the time with that knowledge was it's okay, it's a shoo-in, right? Like if you're at the preschool, there's room in our kindergarten. This being an interesting year, that's no longer the case. And so I think for us, it seems logical and beneficial for all parties that when your student and your families have started to invest in the school, even at the pre-K level, they're in it for that school, right? We're, paying into pre-K, so it's not like we just want this free benefit. We're invested in the school and would love to stay as we grow that community. So it's only been a few short months, but we've already felt like we're planting roots. And the other parents have been really great in just building those bonds. And it's been a great experience, and then also disappointing to realize we're starting over and there's not that guarantee of keeping with this family that we're growing. So I think for us, the desire would be to include some kind of prioritization where when you do the lottery, you at least have some kind of one up by already being an existing student. That to me seems like a very fair thing where you want to keep those families that are already involved in the school, invested. And we even have a parent who has a second grader at Warder, and her child has gone to preschool at Warder for 2 years, and there's still no guarantee she'll get in. She still has to choice in, and, with 140 applicants to the kindergarten at Warder, even if they can get 70 spots, which isn't clear, that's still a really big gap. And not knowing the other schools that we'll go to just feels a little bit unfortunate, right? I know the schools in the district are good, but there's definitely a lot of dedicated parents here who have researched, who have listed 15 different options to make sure they get the best for their kid. And so we're very passionate about being a part of Warder and would love to just make sure that if this enrollment round could also be adjusted, where you have the normal things fall in line for the families that are a part of that neighborhood, the families that are part of the staff or part of the siblings there, and then those in Jeffco who are opting in who have existing students. I feel like that's a really easy next step to have a priority. So I don't know if we're only allowing it for one speaker. That's all I have. If you want to hear their voices, these parents are awesome. I really appreciate the solidarity here. And I know we've got a lot of other Warder parents who don't have to choice in, who are rallying behind us, and that's been really nice to be a part of too. All right, thank you guys for your time.
Sure, I was going to say, you have time left. So if there are other voices from your group that want to speak, feel free. You can see the clock there. If that was the message, then absolutely thank you for coming.
Yeah, I'd like to speak up. I think, Julie, thank you for involving me in this, because I remember getting that pang of anxiety. My daughter has been going to preschool for 2 years. The staff know her name. She's fully invested. She's seen kids move on to kindergarten because she's been there for 2 years, so she's already developed all of these relationships. And then just to go into a general lottery and not have some sort of preference for creating these relationships, not only with the staff, but kids, parents. I agree with Julie that I just think it would be really fair to have preference to those kids who have been investing, their emotional well-being in the school as well.
And I was also going to mention, kind of like Kristen was saying, that, they've developed relationships with the teachers and the parents and other students. And my son has an IEP, so he even has like a team of therapists at the school, which he's developing relationships. And then to start over at another school is just really difficult for him. Again, not even to have some kind of prioritization, just help us move forward at Warder, hopefully.
Right. Anybody else from the group? I don't want to silence anyone if you wanted to share.
Can I share something?
Please.
Oh, okay. Hi. So I am Isabel and I am Aaron's mom. And we actually didn't even know about Warder until we were introduced to Child Find. And Child Find is who introduced us to Warder. Aaron has been going to preschool there for over a year, and he also has an IEP, and the tremendous amount of progression that he's shown has been so wonderful. And now he's built a relationship with his peers. I'm starting to build relationships with the moms. And I would just love for him to be able to continue at Warder. He would be starting kindergarten in August, and he also, I applied for him, so I guess we'll get to know when the lottery process reveals the results, but it's also anxiety driven to know that we might not get a spot and we might have to start all over again. So it'd be nice for parents to be able to have a guaranteed spot if kiddos are already in preschool wanting to continue their education at Warder. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the last couple minutes? Okay, thank you all very much for joining us and for coming to public comment.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to now move on to our consent agenda. The Jeffco Board of Education is proud to issue proclamations that honor our schools and community organizations and that highlight issues aligned with our district's mission, vision, values, and strategic plan. This month, the board will vote on the adoption of proclamations in recognition of Law Enforcement Appreciation Day and Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The proclamations are available in full on the district's website. At this moment, I'm going to turn it over
Yes,
to our
President
superintendent.
Schooley. Yes, I'm going to jump in. President Schooley, I would like to recommend that the board delay a vote on consent items 5.11, 5.12, 5.13, 5.14, and 5.15. We received some questions from board members on these items that we were not able to answer in time for this meeting. I'm working with our interim chief operating officer to get the board additional information on the costs related to these items. We are still committed to these projects, and we will ask you to consider them on February 9th.
So is there a motion for the consent agenda as amended?
So just clarity that those will be removed from.
Yeah, Julie, I think we don't necessarily need a motion to remove them. I'm just telling you as superintendent that I would like to remove them for consideration from this evening's consent agenda item. And then we have language for Director Reed that indicates that prior to your vote.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of items 5.11, 5.12, 5.13, 5.14, and 5.15.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Director Barta.
Sorry, I didn't know this was coming, so these are all just real time. Last time when we were discussing a contract, there was a lot of contingencies of if we don't do this today, we'll delay this and we won't be ready for that. Is there any problem in this for our schools if we delay these?
The good news is that your January meeting, given the holiday, the New Year holiday, is late, and your February meeting is about 3 weeks away. So we'll be fine, and that will allow us to give you all more information about some of these projects as you make decisions.
Any other discussion, questions? Okay, hearing none, it has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the removal of items 5.11, 5.12, 5.13, 5.14, and 5.15. Roll call, please, Ms. Lang.
Ms. Miller,
Yes?
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Schooley,
Yes.
Dr. Vardy.
Yes.
All right, thank you, board. We're going to move on to our Roth's resolution update, agenda item 6.01. The purpose of this presentation by Lisa Relu, Chief of Strategy and Communications, is to make progress on Roth's resolution is that 3I? It's 3I. Yeah, I think I said 31. Commit to an engagement process that includes community partners, area residents, elected officials, municipal representatives, businesses, and nonprofits that provides recommendations to the board regarding the disposition of un- or underutilized buildings that are the property of Jeffco Public Schools. This work is of interest to the Jeffco public, and tonight, Ms. Relu will update us on revisions that have been made to the district's disposition process that are reflective of the board's feedback that we provided following the presentation on January 11th of this year. Superintendent Dorland? No. I'm going to turn it on over to our friends. Welcome.
Thank you so much, President Schooley, and I'm excited to be joined here by Shannon Fitzgerald, who is supporting my team in this work. So first, I want to just thank the board so much for the feedback that you gave to us last week, and also the feedback that we have received from others as they've reviewed this process as well, which has helped us to refine it further. I also want to stress that there are many folks in our cabinet team who are leaning in on this, particularly our CFO, Brenna Copeland, and our interim COO, David Supas. And we are so appreciative of their support on this, and this will continue to be something that iterates as we go. But I think we have a pretty solid process that we are going to update you on tonight, and then we are working towards a January 30th deadline of having all of this information up on our website and accessible to the public. So today I'm just going to hit on a few of the things that we changed based on your feedback from the last presentation. So we have that we did change from a steering committee to an advisory committee, which made a lot of sense in terms of how this committee will function. Also being specific that our members from CAC, DAC, FOC will all be members of the community and not members of staff. And then just to reiterate the fact that we will be adding 4 additional geography-specific members. So those are folks who live in the areas that in which the schools are that we are looking at for surplus, that they reside in those areas and have specific context on that area in particular. So we will be adding those as we review each proposal, or as we work on the surplus of each individual school. Next, we also wanted to just make sure that we point out that the committee will be staffed and facilitated. So the committee will not be on its own. It will be staffed by members of my team and with Shannon's support as well. And we'll make sure that we are not putting everything on the committee, but supporting them in their work. Let's see. So then the other thing that we've added here is that we're hopeful that as we go through this process, that we are able to actually announce the municipalities in which we are going to ask the board to consider properties for surplus. So on March 1st, the board would receive our recommendation on the specific properties we want to look at for surplus, but earlier than that, we would indicate where those properties might be so that folks can start thinking, as Dr. Varda pointed out last time, about what they in those specific areas, what they might want to propose if they want to propose something. And then we've changed our process just a little bit. It looks very much the same, but I just want to make sure that we hit on the fact that every single property, like individual property, goes through this. So we're not lumping all the properties together, but every property will go through this process that gets surplused. We will be meeting with city officials and special districts to obtain information about what ideas that they have for properties. Now we intend to actually, as soon as we are done with this meeting in the next few weeks, we will start reaching out to city managers and special district folks to start just having general conversations, make sure they understand what our process is, what our timelines look like, and just making sure we're opening communication with them. So then the other things that have changed is as Dr. Varda pointed out earlier in terms of the proposals themselves, this is really this first process. We have this property, we've talked to the city, and now we're going to host a public information session. We might have an open house that's open most of the day where people can come in, see the property, and then we'd host a meeting where we'd give more information. And then we'd really open this, we're going to collect the intent to propose. So we're just kind of getting a sense of what might people want to do in these buildings. And then to Dr. Varda's point, when we met last week, some of these folks might not be ready. They might not have the funding for sale or for lease. They might have an idea for programming. And as we mentioned last week, we have space in our existing buildings for some things. And so we might be able to help them find ways to do things they want to do with us that wouldn't actually be around buying or leasing one of our properties. So we'll be looking at the types of things that come in, and we'll talk in a little bit about how we've responded to the feedback that we got about the time period for this. Once the proposals, we've sort of vetted them for viability, both on our end and legally and with the committee as well, we would go to a community input gathering process where folks would be able to talk to the folks who have proposed these things, learn a little bit more, and then the committee would score the viable proposals. And I don't want you to think of it like there will be a ranking order, like one proposal comes out as number one and then number two, number three. These proposals may be very different and apples and oranges, and you can't really compare them. So they will just be they'll be using their rubric to see how the proposal scores against that. And they may put things in there like, in order to be a stronger proposal, this proposal might do X, Y, or Z. It might add these things or consider these things. And we intend to provide updates to the board along the way through this process. You may attend things, and then we'll definitely be providing you with updates and also sitting here in study sessions and things like that. The one major change that you're going to see here is, as we've talked through this a little bit more, we really understood that this contracting process might be lengthy. And so once we have some viable proposals, we would enter some sort of contracting process that could take a while. And we'd enter that process, we'd keep you updated. We assume that the folks who might be interested may need to get their funding together, or they may need to talk with the city about what they want to do. And we also would need to do some negotiations as part of that process. And then after, as we got closer to the end of that, we would bring something or multiple things to the board for consideration. So just want to, I think that as Shannon and I have spent a lot of time discussing, it's very important, we believe, for the community to see movement and see us moving through this process. And they will, and they'll be able to go along with us. But getting to a final vote might take a little bit longer, just to sort of set expectations for everybody. And then finally, we've updated this next steps just to say that we're going to send information directly to city managers so they can find it on our website. We'll start scheduling some conversations, and we're also we've received a question around when are we going to start to understand also what our options schools might be interested in terms of buildings and things like that. And we're in the process of scheduling, reaching out to all of our option schools to see what their needs or desires might be, so that we are certain that we wouldn't push things through the surplus process without first understanding if those particular things are of interest to our internal folks, and go through some kind of process internally to determine if that's a need we can use the building for. So those are the updates that we have for you today. And again, I just want to say how much we appreciate your thoughtful conversation with us last week, and we believe it will continue to be an ongoing discussion that we have with you. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for this, and thanks for sort of thoughtfully integrating feedback from last week. Board members, any questions, comments that you'd like to share? Yep, Director Reed.
I thought I understood this from last week's conversation, but I just want to check. When you talk to city officials, you've mentioned like city managers and folks like that. I know when we did school closures, we got feedback from city council members that they felt that they should have been more involved in the conversation. So will we be reaching out to elected officials like city council members as well?
So we will be asking our city managers about that, and since they are the folks who regularly are interacting with those folks. But that is our hope, and I know you all, I'm sure, are going to start receiving invitations to meet with different city councils. We've already received one from the city of Edgewater, for example, and so as those requests are made for you all to meet with city councils as well, we'll be working with you to get that on your calendars. But yes, our intention is that in a way that is most productive, and the way to and you may have elected officials who speak to you as elected official to elected official, and we're happy to be in those conversations as well as it's helpful to you.
And just to put it on the radar, I mean, there is a new county manager as well that was just brought on board. So just to make sure that person is included along with the city managers. Director Miller?
I just want to follow up on your point, and then you said meeting with city councils, and I just want to go back in time for 3 years to 2019, where we started to try to have gatherings between the board and city councils. And so I don't know if we can start to maybe get that back into a cycle so that we would not only be able to talk about this and bring forward those conversations, but also what else might we be able to collaborate with or talk with them about. Or I know you guys have things in Arvada and up north and Bolden and, I'm not, wherever we have it. Yeah. So I just like to, if there's a way to combine both efforts of how do we become a little bit more knitted again with our cities, and this might be a great opportunity for that kind of event, or maybe putting two together. I don't know, but that's not my job.
Thank you for that suggestion, Director Miller, and we'll definitely follow up on that.
Ooh, a duel. Director Parker, go ahead.
Thanks. I have 3 questions. One, our policy, DN, refers to surplus properties as ones that we cannot foresee in the foreseeable future a use for the district. So when you are doing your evaluation and you're preparing to present to us the first phase of properties that are considered surplus, can you also give us an idea of which properties you might have already determined you would not be considering surplus?
I don't think so, because right now, we'll be able to do that in the future. We still have a lot of assessing to do of all the properties that we have. So I want to just set expectations. I don't think we're going to be in March. I don't think we're going to be giving you an overview of all the properties and which ones we might need and why. That might be a longer term thing, but I think we'll be able to show for the individual properties that we're bringing forward in March that the need for the future is not there and why.
Okay. The second thing is there was community concern about vacant properties and the security and vandalism, other things that are happening there. Will we have some guidance on what we're going to do with those properties that will be vacant for a significant amount of time?
Yeah, we've been working with Mr. Pearson, who's here from the Department of School Safety, and those schools have cameras on the exterior, and some of them He and his team have done a really great job of identifying where we need additional cameras. And sometimes that just means taking a camera from the inside and putting it outside for now. And they monitor that around the clock, and will also continue doing patrols. So ensuring that those buildings are still well maintained, the grounds are well maintained, and there's no vandalism or tagging, and or that folks aren't on property who shouldn't be on property is definitely a major priority for us.
And then finally, in the advisory committee, as you've defined the membership there, is there any thought of putting teachers or support staff or other employees on that committee?
I think that we will definitely, and we've already had some folks reach out to us who will be interested in specific areas of the city in terms of when we look at various properties. So the membership of those committees, by the way, is something that we'll be working on with the main advisory committee and we'll keep you updated on. But I certainly think that there is a really good chance that we could have some folks, because a lot of times some of our staff members are also residents in the area and have been there for a long time, and having their voice at the table could be really helpful.
Director Barta.
Thank you very much for thinking about all those different parts, especially the timeline. Ever since last week, I've been thinking about the timeline, and I'm like, this is a crazy timeline. Like my worry is that the rush will miss really good opportunities for people who just didn't learn about it for, a month. And also making space for those folks who may not be as knowledgeable or powerful, about how to bring people together. So I really love the call for an intent to propose, or intent. Yeah, I think that's what we said, intent to propose. And then, so it sounds like you'll reach back out to folks. The only thing I would also encourage, and you've probably already thought about this, that there's a lot of people in the community who play the role of convener and organizer, like our foundations, or, I know Arvada best, so the Arvada Chamber. And I was thinking about Ms. Thomas's public comment today and her ideas about childcare. So it'd be really interesting. So what I'm wondering is, how do we make sure that folks like Ms. Thomas and others could bring forward an idea like that, and then maybe tap into early childhood councils, and then I know Arvada Chamber is really interested in our childcare kind of shortage in Arvada. So is there a way that we can help without doing the work? Because we can't do the work for them, but facilitate those conversations to encourage those joint proposals or collaborative ideas to come forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to remind everybody that this is going to be a very long process. And so, and I think I tried to set the expectation for you all that we're not looking at very many properties for the first round. So I'm hopeful once we get this going that, as Dr. Vedder, as you're saying, maybe we hold regular information sessions every month or something for folks who are planning for the future. In terms of properties they might be interested in that aren't in the first round, and that they'll have plenty of time because our next round doesn't start until August. And thinking about those folks in the community who do play roles of convener, who might want to get folks together. And I think just generally, we're interested in good ideas that if they're programmatic, we might shift them over to another part of the organization, because they might be able to function within a school we have that's operating. And that might be better than operating in a building that doesn't have, is not operating as a school. So I think really helping, diligently looking through the intent to proposals and then making contact with those people to really understand what they're trying to achieve.
I just had one other comment. A few people have asked me, and I think you said this already, but that when those buildings come out, that it will include zoning and size of the property or space. Zoning requirements, permissions, I don't know.
So we were just speaking with our facilities team about this today. So they are going to create like a tear sheet or a one pager on each building. Now, what it's currently zoned for is a school. So they would have to do zoning work. That's what it's current. What our buildings are currently zoned for.
Director Miller?
Had one other thing. I just had a neighbor come along and was asking me, what's happening to our schools? And she doesn't have children. And so she was concerned, like, how will I find out? And I told her, if in like 3 or 4 weeks you know nothing, tell me, because then I'll know you're not getting any information. So it's like a good litmus test to make sure that folks who don't have kids in the district are also, I think that happened to us with our school consolidations, that people without kids didn't get as much information or any, which makes sense in some ways. So anyways, it was just, I didn't know how to answer her, like how she would know about what's going to happen next as someone who doesn't get Jeffco schools communications.
We are going to do, we're dedicated to advertising, so we will be, like, especially as we announce specific properties, we'll be sharing that information. We've talked about, the local newspapers for sure, and then using, social media, like Nextdoor. We've talked about using that and being able to. I know Director Miller mentioned a really great spreadsheet of people or organizations and we have this amazing, our list from the Alliance is far and deep as well, and would be an opportunity for us to keep elected officials and others up to date as well. So I at the end of the day, I don't know if we're going to reach everybody, but we're certainly going to do our best to be proactive in getting the message out.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's a great question. The properties that we're talking about, schools, but I know we had also talked that there's other properties across the district, so that we have a list. And so will we just be looking at the school properties, or will we also be saying, some of these pieces of land, there's not going to be a school put on here just because of its location, and that might be and it's not encumbered by bond proceeds, and it's not encumbered by safe, warm, and dry. There's a lot of freedom, or more flexibility, maybe not freedom, but flexibility to potentially sell those properties in a cycle that could go to this speed, shall we say, and we would have those dollars that wouldn't necessarily have to go into the construction fund or capital fund, because they wouldn't have been capital dollars. I'm just trying to think about how we kind of balance the timelines that are more maybe intensive with the schools and the programs that we can maybe bring forward versus maybe those properties that we don't really need, and we could maybe realize a little bit faster movement on them. And I don't know where they are, so I could be dreaming, but I'm just thinking, how might we kind of balance and see if we couldn't get some money over into our operating funds that wouldn't be encumbered by the bond issue.
Yeah, we're going to ask our interim COO to take another look at the properties that are vacant land at the moment, and some of them are allocated for things, and so but it's definitely a really good point, something that's been a lot on my mind. I also just want to set expectations that some of the parcels we have are like 0.2 acres, or like a ditch or drainage, or things like, we've got a lot of things like that that probably no one's going to be interested in. But I think the land piece is an important piece to, and I don't know if we'll be bringing it forward in March, but it could be something we bring forward in August. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sorry. It was just to say on the small parcel, and I've mentioned this before, but when we were at CASB and Eagle County presented their housing solution for staff of the school district, one thing they pointed out was that one thing they had were very, very small parcels of land. So they worked with, I believe, Habitat for Humanity to build single small units. I think they're modular housing on those, but I just mentioned it because it seemed really intuitive, and also not at the same time that they could. For school districts, this was one of our most valuable assets, and so even small pieces of land in Jefferson County may ripple down to something like an opportunity for affordable housing for a teacher or something. So it's just a really interesting model. Yeah.
So I just have, I guess, 2 suggestions / questions. The first one is, as we look at that, and I know there is, I'm sure, some big list of all of the ditches and buildings and other things that the district owns. And then I want to just make sure that we're including in that, district buildings that are really purely sort of administrative buildings that, whether they're underutilized, are still part of this larger portfolio. And as our footprint necessarily needs to get smaller, how we make those, including those as we contemplate what is really necessary to support kids and support schools and support our staff, and what is a need versus want. Because those, I think we may find maybe that there are some opportunities there to reduce our footprint in similar ways as we have in our communities. So is it a fair assumption that that's being included in this process?
Yeah, we are looking at all with the buildings that house admin. We are definitely looking at those as well, and how things could potentially shift in this environment of all the property that we own.
That's awesome. It's good to hear. I mean, I think, one, as a community member, I think that would be a strong expectation that that those things get felt in communities when we merge schools or have other things that we have happen in communities, that we're thinking about that and being conscientious about it at a sort of more administrative level. The second is, I'm curious about conflict of interest on the advisory committees that are being set up. I was trying to untangle how you would have someone that didn't have a conflict of interest in really being able to give a voice that this is the sort of best interest of communities, because sort of public officials have their own sort of lens that they may bring. Community members may have their own lens. So I don't really have anything flushed out, but I'm curious how you're thinking about conflict of interest in terms of really getting feedback that's representative of the best interest of community, and how that works within the process.
So Shannon and I have spent a lot of time talking about that. I think as people apply to be ad hoc members for their area, obviously, like if you're submitting a proposal or an intent, or you're associated with that, or you would benefit from that in some way, you would not be allowed to participate. Also, of course, I believe, like any of our committees would operate, if our standard members, the ones from CAC, DAC, FOC, somehow had some connection or were related to some kind of proposal, they would have to abstain. We'd have to replace them with another DAC or CAC or FOC member for the review of that particular proposal. So it's we are definitely looking for objectivity, and hopefully with the mix of people that come into the circle, that they are all offering different perspectives, and as Director Miller pointed out last time, different areas of expertise that they can add. But they are also not a decision-making body, and that in the way in which they will be scoring proposals against a rubric, and we're not planning to rank them in any way, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't be biased towards a proposal if they were part of it. And so we will make it very clear to the committee, and that our expectation is that we would not include folks who are part of a proposal in an ad hoc way, and if any of the members who are part of the advisory that's coming along with us, if they happen to be involved, they would step down from reviewing that proposal.
That's great. I know this is such a this property disposition piece. It's there's a lot of interest from a variety of different areas and groups, which is understandable. I want to, I think, just make sure that it's really transparent and publicly sort of out there, like who is advising to the district and board on these issues, and that we can be confident that we're aware of trying to make it as open and transparent as possible. That's helpful. Any other questions or comments before we let these fine people leave? Okay. Thank you very much, both of you, for your work. Much appreciated. So we are going to go now to leadership reports, and I will turn it over to our superintendent.
Thank you, President Schooley. The first thing I want to do is introduce somebody who's been mentioned a couple times tonight, and that is David Supis. Hello, David. David Supis, thank you so much for offering your services and expertise as our interim Chief Operating Officer. We appreciate that you're here to help us, and this is our wonderful Board of Education.
Hi.
Yeah, great. So that's who David is. I know we've talked about that, but you haven't had a chance to meet him. So I also want to let you all know that I was able to have my first community superintendent conversation at Green Mountain High School, which was co-hosted by Brandy Koski, who is in charge of the Green Mountain High School Foundation. And so I just want to publicly say thank you to her. She was the first one to co-host for us. It was a lively and really fun conversation. Director Reed was with me, and we had the opportunity to have really open and more casual conversation with the community around issues of their interest. And so the topics we talked about were mental health and social emotional learning for students. We talked about the school and district budgets. And we also talked about our district calendar and late start schedules and the balance of the need for teachers to have consistent time for professional learning, collaboration, independent preparation time, and some of the impacts that time also then has on our families. It was well attended. 30 to 40 folks were there, mostly parents, but some staff. And I just was really appreciative to be in the community in a more informal setting, talking about the real opportunities that we have in Jeffco, the real challenges, and the real amazing things that are going on in our schools. So I look forward to more of those. We have a community update that is going out or went out, I believe, today that announces these pretty formally. I did a video invitation to community members. So there are many more that are scheduled. They're on the website in the community update today. It explains to families how they can find a superintendent community conversation coming soon to an area near them. And thank you to those community groups who have already offered to co-host. It's really great, this co-host model, because they are so in tune with what the community's questions and thoughts are and interests that they're queuing up sort of what are the topics we're going to talk about. And so I really appreciate the co-hosts who are our community partners. I would also like to say that as part of my update, in the community update today, we are announcing some new surveys that are going to be going out to families and students this year. It is through our new partner, Panorama. And Panorama is a national survey company that works with many school districts across the nation to support with stakeholder engagement surveys. And so to our conversation around monitoring reports and some of your interest in the first two reports that you reviewed around, these comparisons, for example, of graduation rates to our state graduation rates are fine and good to know, but it would be great to know how we're comparing nationally. Because honestly, we don't have a lot of peer districts in the state of Colorado, given that we're the second largest and just some of our demographics being different. So we're really looking forward to working with a tool that will help us provide some of those national comparisons. And so that's being announced today to our families as well. Thank you to Dr. Kim and and everybody who's been working on that. I know Dr. Eaton's team has been pretty involved as well, given that they currently run our survey work. And so a transition into this kind of model is a big deal for that team. And so thank you to them. And then finally, I have the most exciting announcement. I got this on my desk today, I think probably from Mr. Polero. And it's been something I have been looking forward to for, 6-12 months we've been talking about this. But our Jeffco Transition Services students are starting a coffee shop in the lobby of the Ed Center. I'm so excited. And I just want to announce that they are having a soft start opening on January 25th of this month, next week, from 9 to 1. And they have done all the graphics. They have made the menu. And it is just coffee right now. But they're doing a soft start so that they can learn, how much do we need of certain ingredients? What are people mostly going to buy? What do we need to be prepared for? So they'll be doing the soft start, taking a break to analyze all the data from that day, lessons learned, just like a normal restaurant might have a soft start. We were talking about that earlier. And then they will begin in March having a more regular schedule for our Ed Center. I'm really excited about this. Thank you to our transition services staff and others on Mr. Polero's team and Mr. Polero for helping to move this forward. It's going to be, I think, a real bright spot for folks who work in the district, and an awesome ability for folks in this building who are so critical to our work as a district to have a direct connection to our students. So that's my most important and exciting update for you this evening. And with that, I will hand it back over to President Schooley. Thank you.
That's great. And congratulations to those students. I think that's really exciting. Is there any board member who would like to start with reports out about what goings on we have been engaged in? Director Parker.
Thank you. A couple of the things that I was able to take part in the last month. This was my second time around at Lakewood High School to talk about To Kill a Mockingbird and other novels. This year they actually opened it up to some different additional novels. It's wonderful. I know a lot of other board members got to take part in it. It's great to listen to the kids and just to see the wide variety. But I will say, I'm just going to make one comment. We did have an evaluation. The first one was on their professional appearance. And I think that they were dressed as professional students. So anyway, that was one thing. But they were great. It was lots of fun. The other thing that I did, other board members did this as well, is take a tour of Fletcher Miller School. That was so, so special. I want to give a shout out to that whole staff there, the people that work there. They are truly special adults to devote so much time to those very special kids. So it was wonderful. I also participated in the Prospect Valley ribbon cutting for their new school. That was amazing. And I'm telling you, for a very cold, very icy night with very few parking spaces, it was an amazing turnout. It was clear that that community is very excited about that new school. Also, I had the opportunity to attend two DAC meetings, I think, and I want to give a shout out to that group as well. Their work is incredible, and as a board member, their recommendations and their insight is so valuable to us. And I also got a chance to listen in on the middle school honors choir at Columbine High School. And I realized that one of the very few things I remember about my high school experience was being in choir. And I'm going to tell you, I was not a good singer, and I'm still not, but I just remember that as a very special time in high school. And finally, since it is Board Appreciation, School Board Appreciation Month, I want to say how much I appreciate my fellow board members. Not only is this an unpaid position, but I'm the only one that doesn't have a job, who's not working now. So the rest of you, my hat's off to you, and especially the ones that still have kids in school. Your voice is so important And so the fact that you are taking on this additional work means so much. So thank you.
Accolades continue. Is there anyone that would like to go next? And yes, I did notice, Ms. Parker, it was a lot of jammy pants and a band of professional attire. So, not all. Director Miller, did you want to go next?
Yes, it's been a very short amount of time from winter break to now, and we've had a snow day. And anyway, I would like to do a shout out to Fletcher Miller and the staff, and thank you, Matt, for putting that together. For those of us that were able to make it, I think being able to walk through and realize this was built in 1963 or 62, I can't remember the exact year, but suffice it to say it was 60 or 70 years ago. And at that time, it was a state of the art. But we see that the state of the art has changed over time. And I am hopeful that we really do think very carefully about what does the next 30 to 40 years look like for these children and these staff members, and that we provide the best that we can possibly provide. So that's in preparation of February 1st, just putting that out there. The second thing is I really want to thank the DAC two groups. One was the charter committee. I was able to kind of sneak in on that part on Tuesday evening. We had it via video. It was kind of had flashbacks, which was kind of terrifying, but we made it through. And I really appreciate that group that really worked through the charter discussion prior to the full DAC committee meeting. And the DAC group is very dedicated. It's wonderful to have just different voices and families that are coming through that have different experiences now. And so I'm very thankful that the DAC is able to start to bring in different people's voices from all over Jeffco. And I think that's a testimony to just coming out of COVID, and people are stepping up, and that's wonderful. And then I'm looking forward to a community conversation. I think Lisa is joining me on Saturday morning with Two Creeks. And I'll bother you about that later. But I think those conversations like you had at Green Mountain for your conversations, both you all were there. The more that we can go in combo and talk, I think is really important over the next 8 to 12 months and what this looks like. So I'm looking forward to what that conversation is going to be. And I'm looking forward to future conversations as well. And then getting back in the flow and seeing schools, because I have just not been in that space for a while. So thanks.
It's the good stuff being in schools. Director Reed.
Okay, I've got a lot of overlap here because I've had the opportunity to do things with people, which is, I think, always nice. So I also had the opportunity to go to Lakewood High School and listen to the ninth graders talking about To Kill a Mockingbird, which, of course, having taught it myself for a very long time, and then actually having chosen not to teach it one year, and choose a more contemporary piece that had the same themes. I really enjoyed hearing what the kids had to say, and I felt like they were very thoughtful about what makes a book relevant for today's teenagers. And so I enjoyed that. I have often said that if teaching had just been sitting around talking with kids about books all day long, I could have done it until I was 90. So it was so fun to get the chance to do that again. I also was really impressed with our visit to Fletcher Miller, just amazed. I've driven past that school a million times, and it's the first time I've ever been inside of it. And what goes on in that school is incredible. Incredible staff, beautiful children, just such important work that goes on there. And they've been stuck doing super important work in a building that is not worthy of it, I don't think. And so I'm excited to be working with that community to be making that facility what it should be for their students. Also, really appreciated the meeting with the Green Mountain community with Tracy Dorland, and that feedback on late starts and how that was impacting families was important. I also was really impressed by how much thought the families that attended had given to the mental health of their students, and how appreciative they were of what was offered by the district. They did seem to really understand that they had a lot of resources. The biggest thing was just when you're in crisis, it's hard to remember what those resources are. So we brainstormed, I thought, some pretty good ways to take care of that. And I think that's something that can be used by other communities as well. I think everybody could stand sort of a quick crisis resource for that. So it was, and I just enjoy that community in general, but it was a better attended meeting than usual. So you were a big draw. I had the chance to attend the Jeffco Middle School Honors Instrumental Music Concert. I was late. I had the wrong time on my calendar, so I missed the beginning of it. But I'm always just flabbergasted at how really good our middle school kids sound in an honors choir. They are an honors instrumental music concert. They are so good, and they're so serious and so wonderful. I just really enjoyed it. And I'm taking actually a little break from going to schools to meet with cabinet members. I haven't done that for a while. And the last time I did it, I was a brand new board member who had no idea what the cabinet even did. So it's kind of nice to come at it with a better understanding of how the whole district works. And granted, I've just started to scrape the surface. But what I'm hearing is that we have a cabinet that works well together and that is really excited about where the district is going. And so, most people really get the chance to hear us talk about it. I don't think that the average person really gets to hear how the cabinet members and the leaders who are working more directly feel about working for Jeffco. And so far, it's sounding really good. So I'm excited to be able to do that as well.
Thank you. Dr. Berta.
I don't have a long report. I've been shoveling snow for weeks on my corner lot. Aside from all the things that you all have already mentioned, visiting with cabinet and at Fletcher Miller, I've had a lot of real life experiences. I think lately I have a child going into high school who's acting like it's a college admission, and we have toured almost, I think, 6 high schools. This was not how I went to school when I was young. I just went to the next school. So I've toured so many schools, but not as a board member, as a parent, and it was just a good experience. Next year, you might want to do that. They set out tables for all their extracurriculars, and you meet with the teachers, and so it was great. It was very time consuming and different, and I loved it. And I don't want to do that very much again. I just want my kids to go to their schools. Otherwise, I've gone to a lot of concerts for band, orchestra, choir in our area. Those are always some of my favorites. And I wrote on my list, I've studied for a lot of spelling tests also with my kids. So it's just been a really, I think, kind of busy time. I hope that our teachers and staff got some rest over the break and feel prepared to stick it out through this next semester. I just want to say thank you for how hard everybody works.
All right. I highly encourage anyone that is wanting to go and experience any of the Jeffco theater, music, arts, any of the kind of showcases and performances that are coming up, because I know that they're scheduled out throughout the spring, culminating. I can't tell you how excited I'm going to be when the art show is happening again, because I know, because we go crazy, but to go on the there are calendars, and those performances are listed, and it is such a wonderful way to support students who are expressing themselves and the gifts. So I'm excited about some of those and appreciate the time that cabinet members, that school leadership has made for visits. I know it takes time away from really important work, and it is also really, it's just fun to see students do what they're doing. And I've been able to observe in a lot of classrooms around some of the reading and math curriculum that folks are using that have been adopted recently, and just seeing how those lessons are going. So it's been super helpful. And then lastly, I leave tomorrow for a weekend-long CASB board member retreat, and we'll bring back oodles of learning, I'm sure, to be able to share with you all. It is a really helpful way to continue to connect Jeffco into sort of statewide ecosystem of public ed board members and leaders. And I do think that it's a great way for our Jeffco voice to matter and to be present in those forums. So, yeah, hopefully it'll be just a ton of fun. And that's it for right now. Are there any other comments or anything from anyone? Okay, with that brings us to the end of today's agenda. We stand adjourned. Our next meeting is a study session scheduled for February 1st at 3 p.m. right here. And don't forget, oh, is that directed at me? I have to get my badge. I need my Jeffco. Yeah, we're not very, good night, everyone.